Peace, Morris. We getting started. I'm getting ready to get my day started. I just wanted to share something with you before we head out. 1 second, Morris. I'm gonna be speaking today, this morning at my alma mater at Grand Canyon University this morning. I'm gonna be speaking in the so-called African American Arts Department, and they have the student council. So they had donated funds to my nonprofit for me to come up to the school and speak on a certain, just on a few topics. And I always like to talk about growth and development and how we can take over our community. When I tell brothers and sisters that I don't complain, that I don't like to complain about things. And when you understand business, and when you're educated, and when you are a business, and when you are a nonprofit, a 501c3, you can take over your neighborhood and you can buy back the community as a charter community, as a 501c3, just like all other organizations, just like a lot of universities play with nonprofit and for profit, because they have stakeholders and investors the same way we can have in our community. And we don't complain about the education, about the fake religion, if we organize and teach our own. And that's what I'm going to be showing my brothers and sisters. I'm doing it here in Arizona, but I'm really doing it back in my hometown in Flint, Michigan. And I'm asking my brothers and sisters to join along. We don't have to cry and complain. Once you're organized, you can buy your community. Moors and my so-called Hebrew like Israelite brothers, don't you know in your neighborhood is houses that's tore down in blocks? You can get those donated to you when you're a nonprofit, or you can buy those empty lots for pennies of a dollar, less than what you pay for Michael Jordan tennis shoes. And then have a charter community, have our own teaching, and that's what I'm going to be showing brothers and sisters. When I go back to Flint, Michigan in July, I'm going to show my blueprints and how I already almost have a whole block, both sides. And we're going to gate it off and have a gated community with our own infrastructure. But I'm going to be talking about something more, and it was the Homestead Act. When I tell my brothers and sisters, we got to really study history and understand where it come from. And then you know how to operate. When I'm talking about the doctrine of discovery, look what the doctrine of discovery is, Moors. When brothers we talk about some slavery stuff, everybody wasn't no slaves. Everybody didn't come off no boat. It was brothers and sisters already here with land. My family already were here, had land, owned lots of stuff. We got to understand. You got to check your family background. But it was signed into law in May 1862. The Homestead Act opened up settlements in the Western Union states, and this is what they say: allowing any American. But they try to throw stuff in there, including free slaves. But then you got to remember, if you were the slave, that Dred Scott law, you have to be a free man with your paperwork. See, these ain't the stuff that's in the paper. You have to understand history. You have to be introduced to things, you know? And they were allowed to put in the claim for up to 160 free acres. So how you think a lot of people got a head start with land? A lot of Europeans, and they say some blacks, but I can show you in history, this happened in Kansas, but a lot was taken from the brothers and sisters, just like the doctrine of discovery. This was legal. Legal don't mean right. When the European came and stripped the indigenous people of their land and called them heathens and said they can only be renters of their property. I hope you follow me. The Homestead Act was set in motion the program of public land grants to small farmers. They gave land grants to Europeans. They tried to include everybody, but they didn't, because a slave couldn't have land. And that's what I tell people. A lot of Europeans, no disrespect to nobody, I love all, but I'm just quoting history. They got a head start by getting land, by getting a lot of acres and things, not have to pay for things. And the southern states voted against it because the law had the settlement of Western Territory. And in that law, a lot of blacks was excluded. Slaves was excluded, man. We got to know this. I'm not going to go on all of it because I'm going to recap it when I do my lecture today. Also, we got to understand what the Morrill Land Grant Act of 1890 was. Created dual segregation higher education systems. When brothers be talking about their Rhodes Scholar, well, you need to research who Cecil Rhodes is. Cecil Rhodes was high racist. That wasn't for us. Universities wasn't created until way time after. It's pseudo, requiring states to establish a fund landing grant. you know, for black students. If black students were excluded from the existing land grants, colleges in that state, and they were, you know, the act was the second of its kind. The Morrill Land Act of 1862 provided funding for the creation of land grants colleges across the country. In many states, the colleges established under the 1862 Morrill Act excluded black students. Not until almost 30 years later, in 1890, the Morrill Act was a direct response to discrimination. The 1890 Morrill Act requires states with these dual segregated university systems to provide equal funding to black and white institutions. The funding provided the land grants HBCUs, which is ran by we know who, and they all going bankrupt. They were often low and inadequate in comparison to the money given to the white land grants. I hope we know this. Black churches and white philanthropists usually provided the primary funding for these colleges and universities. The following 19 historical black colleges and universities, often referred to as the 1890 universities, were established under the provision of the 1890 Morrill Act. With that is a reading list. That's why when brothers graduate from these so-called black universities, they don't know nothing, because it's all pseudo. So these are the things we want to know, man. And we can get into arguing about religion, which is bullcrap. I talk about economics. I talk about everything because I'm an adept and I'm a teacher. If we don't understand economics and we don't understand land and how to purchase land and why we should purchase land and how we can create our own and have a nation in a nation, then we're arguing over bullcrap. There's nothing noble being poor and broke. We must pull our resources together and take over our community. That sovereign citizen stuff is bullcrap. That squatting in houses stuff is bullcrap. It is a thing called reverse mortgage and reverse assets and all that. But you must know the proper procedure, for you won't be breaking the law. It's a process. It's a process. It ain't just you going up in no house and talking about this yours in some white neighborhood. That's the dumbest thing ever. And fight not to pay 25 cents, talking about you ain't gonna pay no taxes or you ain't gonna pay no ticket, something miscue and you get your butt killed. A person not telling you the different state law, local law, and federal law. You know, we got to understand how to do things in our community. In our community, we don't squat and just trying to get something and send it in the place where you're not even wanted. Why would you even go somewhere you're not wanted? And we have all these communities with plight, all these abandoned houses. We don't need them raggedy houses. We need the land. Brothers and sisters, we can put pole barns on them, big pole barns, open spaces, and create our own thing. Back in the day, they had slabs and they put houses on slabs. Everything was the same. That's what my blueprints are. And I'm trying to have my people take over their community. We got to get out of this arguing over religion, and we don't have nothing. We don't have nothing. We don't have our own school. We don't have our own educational system. We don't have our own business training facility. We don't have our own job placement centers. We don't have nothing. But we arguing over religion. And I'm telling you, you better understand business from 501c3. That's the only way you're going to do things in your community, because your tax is exempt for the federal government. And you can have your people helping you, giving money. You can have organizations helping, giving money. And you can solicit grants. You can ask for money. You can post up on corners, just like the Girl Scouts, just like any other thing. Just like in Christmas, when they be out there asking for funds. The same thing. We must do things the right way, so we can take over our community legally. We can have this just like Hebrew Hill, when all that land was given to some of the Hebrews and some of the Negroes, and they make a difference. I give you that. I give you all that information. Hebrew Hill, look at it. Look at the difference of Hebrew Hill and what that was all about. We have to get land so we can create our own. Brothers and sisters had land, but it was taken from them. You know, when you talk about the Black Wall Street, when you talk about in Philadelphia, when you talk about the doctrine of discovery. I mean, Moors, Negro, Black, and color, I have to use those names that we always had things. We didn't come from slavery. Things were bombed. Just like when I gave you the history yesterday of what happened in Virginia and how they just went over there and killed all those blacks in government and reestablished it. The white man's government. I mean, this stuff is real. So we have to understand that our dollar is power. And I'm going to show you that when we pull our resources together, when I tell brothers and sisters they can be stakeholders in the Burning Bush Tabernacle, how when you donate, when you start seeing the land that we have, and you start seeing that when we start gardening and putting our property and pole barns up, we can control our education. We can start having job placement centers. We can go and solicit companies that say, hey, why these educated Moors and empresses are not getting these jobs? We need to have our own job placement and put pressure on people. We need to have our own educational center. We need to have our own spiritual centers for we can have something to compare to. For our babies can grow up strong and know that they're not Negro, black, and colored. And understand business and understand that they are a business. My students, when they graduate out of high school, they have their own tax exempt number. They have their own EIN. They have their own Quick 30 accounts. And they all start their nonprofit business off with $1,000. The why this non-for-profit? So they can solicit it for grants and they can help and reach back in their community because we are missionaries. So we can go into communities and show our people how to do this. That's what this is about, man. It's growth and development. And I'm not going to be one of these Moors that just arguing over some religion, so over some old stuff. And when you go in their neighborhoods, these Negroes ain't doing nothing. Their temples are just like a church. That ain't what this is about. This is about real work. This is about educating our people, spirituality, education, agriculture, astronomy, astrology, understanding finances, understanding business. That's what this is about. So we can operate, so we can have our own systems. I love you all, Moors. Tune in this Sunday. We're gonna it's gonna be around 6:30, maybe 7 p.m. We're gonna be lecturing at the YMCA out here in Arizona. If anybody interested, let me know. I'll send you a link. But we're gonna be going back in Michigan in July. We're gonna be in Michigan from the 20th to the 29th. We're gonna be doing a lecture in Flint, Michigan at the YMCA, and we're gonna be doing a lecture at the YMCA in Detroit, Michigan. And we're gonna illuminate some things, man, because this is growth and development. It's land that's waiting for us. And we're going to let these other developers from other places come in and they spend millions of dollars and buy up the whole city? Or are we going to establish ourselves as businesses and Islam empress? And are we going to establish, Islam noble? I don't know if you're a female or a male, but I apologize. But Islam. But these are the things we have to do, man. We have to pull our resources together and be willing to make sure it's right. Make sure everything right. You have stakeholders. You have notary of the public. Nothing is real unless it's notarized. I'm a notary of the public. Don't you know, in the city of Flint and all over, it's things that's so cheap. But when you get it for yourself as ownership, that means that's a personal asset. Nothing's personal. This is business because we're doing a service for the community. That's why I need to be nonprofit, so it can be tax exempt. So a lot of the people that own these buildings, they can donate it and write it off as they're on their taxes. Or say, like for instance, I got one building and it was $4,000. When I talked to Land Bank, I'm like, I'm a nonprofit. Show them my nonprofit. Show them my tax exempt status. They say, okay, well, we'll give it to you for a half of the price and write the rest off on our taxes. That's what you can do when you're tax exempt. A lot of times they can donate it, the property to you and write it up for what it's worth. But we don't know that. Brothers, when I go and buy stuff in the business, they don't even have jobs. They doing it with drug money and everything gets shut down. It happened to one of my homies. He's in prison. He thought he can use his money and just acquire things. Feds coming. You're not established as a business. You got to trust someone and work for that company. Man, the Sopranos showed you. But we're not. Why do you think everything was done under the so-called Catholic Church? And they had unions. It was tax. It was nonprofit. We got to understand this and get our paperwork right and take over our community where we're not worried about the goofball preacher talking that dumb stuff. Talking that Jesus is going to save you. Then when you ask him stuff about the scripture, he don't know. He said, you don't touch my anointed. He was a slave ship called Jesus. Sir Hawkins, the world of Ferdinand and Isabella. This is real history. He got the Negroes black and colored on there with that religion stuff. Research it. You don't have to listen to me. But this is what I'm about, man. I'm about building and collecting resources. And once it started, man, and we have all these other donors, I've been telling Morris, this is real. Are we going to wait till I'm established and then say, oh, I knew what he was doing? All you got to do is make sure it's legit and watch me build and be a part of it. Come to the center, be online students, get up, travel, come to the area. But we don't. We go on vacations and bullcrap. And then when brothers say, well, how do you nationalize? I say through Chicago. I'll go to Chicago with you. I didn't send nothing in because brothers was telling me bullcrap. I got on the plane with the Chicago. Went right where they told me to, did it face value, did the paperwork, then came back home. Before I got home, everything was here. My amnesty oath, my adoption papers, my 3 ID cards, my birth rights, everything. My 3 ID cards, my dispensation papers. So do things the right way and investigate everything. Stop just asking a person. That person can lie to you. Investigate it like we do anything else. But we got to get into this commerce, Moors, and get into this money and put our money together. I'm a real 501c3. The Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. We're tax exempt from the federal government. We're able to have our own religious house, education. We're tax exempt, charitable, religious, scientific, meaning we're just like the Goodwill, just like the Boys and Girls Club, just like the YMCA. You can donate used clothes or anything to us, and I can write you a tax exempt receipt. You can claim it on your taxes, man. Morris, I'm telling you, I need help. I need computer programmers. I need people to help set this web page up. We can take over. For our clothing can be on there. I have so much going on, but I need to help. I have books. Me and my empress and my elementary students are trying to do things. I'm in Arizona. Brothers in Flint, we can have conference calls. We can really do this. Let's take over, man, and do it the right way. I love you all, Morris. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, health, and wealth. Tune in Sunday. I say 7 p.m. We're going to highlight all this.